All right, welcome to day 114. I I just figured out that I'm gonna have like a way busier day than I was anticipating. I won't say just, but this morning, I realized that there's like two events that are happening today. One was something I didn't know about in advance, but I had been going back and forth on whether I was going to go or not. Then the other one is at a completely different location, but it is. I just got an invitation yesterday, and it's today. Both are events that I think that I need to be at. Yet and still, I've been trying to really get my energy up. So I don't know. I decided to go. Ultimately, go to both of those events, and there's just so many things happening around me. So I don't know. I felt like this morning, um, I'm trying to jumpstart my jumpstart myself, I guess you could say. So, like, I got up and did some stuff that I needed to do, like chores and stuff like that, just kind of getting everything in order. And I already committed to doing these things. So now I'm trying to be strategic with my time. I said I was gonna stream today at 11. It's 11:25, so kind of sort of made it on time. But I wanted to get some stuff. Like I definitely was like, my kitchen needs to be like done before I walk out of here. Otherwise, um, I felt like I was gonna be like leave that like kind of in the middle. So I was like, I'm just completing some things I know need to get done today. Stream always is important. I don't want to risk like trying to wait till stream until after I've been out doing stuff all day long. I'm gonna like be really mad at myself when I get home at like 8 o'clock at night, and I literally could have just already had my stream or whatever. So of course, I'm getting that out the way right now, but there's a couple things I want to get at least jump started, or like some to do items I want to get off my plate before I start getting ready for this evening. So that's what I'm going to be working on for right now. I've been up listening to sermons all morning, so I'll try and get my energy up. Miss Steiner, good morning. Um, I had posted I had posted the. I said yesterday I was gonna watch this. Let me see if I can actually. Don't switch. Oh, while I posted it. Where is it? Oh, this one right here. It's time for you to break out. I was just talking about that one yesterday. I watched that. Yes, that was like that's what I was watching this morning. Um, and then the other thing I watched this morning was there was like a sermon called "Living in the Overflow," how to live in the overflow, something like that. Um, and I haven't really been watching a lot of Transformation Church recently because um like I have a church home that I go to now regularly, so I only really catch I used to watch their sermons like every Sunday live, but now I really only catch them in between. But let me see. History. I swear I should know how to use YouTube more, but I never use YouTube from my computer. I'm always on my iPad or on my TV. History. This is the one right here. It's called um hold on. Trying to split screens. Oh, the power of staying in position. Yeah, yeah. I was like, that sounds one point. I watched a couple other things too. I watched this one. Walk in power and this is an old Power Moves. Um, like Power Moves is the name of the book that she has coming out, but this is like a older sermon or older talk that was titled Power Moves. So I watched this one. I watched that one. I watched that one. And yeah, I've been trying to watch the other two last night. Yeah. I might have to go back and watch the one about outside season, but so you watched outside season, Right. So this is what, where is it? This one is outside season. Um yeah, outside season. That one I might have to rewatch it. But this one helped me recently because I'm like, yes, this is exactly my life right now. So oh, did I grab the I'm gonna grab this other ones just in case. But what do I do? Copy, share, copy. So yeah, I've been trying to get my spirit uplifted today. Um and then I cannot wait for her book to come out. I'm so mad because the book. Well, I'm not mad, but I'm like I'm ready to read that book. I'm excited about that book. Add to queue. It's very like to me. I feel like it's right. It's literally right on time for me. So I know I'm seeming like I don't know what I'm doing because I kind of don't. Oh, I knew I did that. Y'all can watch me fumble around. All right, I already did that one. That's not the one I wanted. This one right here. When I tell you I live my life on YouTube, people don't be believing me. um, I feel like I'm in like self-help, self-development, like focus right now. So I'm very conscious because I'm like, I know that I know like I'm growing in a lot of areas and it's stressful. I can't even lie. Like it's always stressful to make progress, but I'm just thoughtful about the last thing I want to do is crash and burn. That is just like, I've been there, done that a couple times. So we're not gonna do that this time. But I'm also not gonna sit still. That's what I'm not gonna do. That's really where I've been struggling lately because I'm like, I gotta get my energy levels up, man. Like I'm not a social person for real. Like I am really an introvert. People do not believe that. So I was used to getting up and, being out at events all the time. Like I was used to that. And now that we haven't done that for so long, I definitely I'm working on it. And then now, I have justice, so that makes things more complicated most of the time. Um and just in general, like sometimes you just want to chill, and it's good. I think it's good to get rest. I just don't want to get stuck into like stagnant. That's not where I want to be. So I am personally looking for like different resources and things that's helping me, which is mostly pretty much what I end up sharing. Like this is my real life. I'm really going through this process right now. So today I did say that I wanted to watch. I remember because I was like, where did I leave off yesterday? I did say, see, I gotta start watching these videos because I'm trying to figure out like I just don't know what topics to make sometimes. I don't know why I get like almost like a writer's block type of thing, or I'm like stuck in this cycle where I'm like probably overthinking videos too. So I'm gonna put this on one of my lists. Actually, I got a list that I never use that I'm supposed to be using. Don't I gotta research? Yeah, channel type research. Put that on that one. Okay. When I see something on YouTube, like if I know I want to watch it, I try to like pin it right then because You might never you might never see that freaking thumbnail again. Um I think I already have this on my watch list. But normally stuff on the watch list has like a oh yeah, it's I was gonna say it does say it's in my playlist. Okay. See, I'm really a YouTube girl. Okay. So this is where we left off, I think. Oh, where is the tab for this isn't it. It's Google Cloud Next for sure. It was like the playlist, and then there was a video that I already knew was next. But I got so many tabs. Is it here? No. How to build. Okay, let's open this up some more. I can get rid of some stuff. It's okay. This starts May 21st. Okay. Tuesday. This is something I gotta plan an event for this week, the week that this starts, and I was like, I know that those dates overlap. Oh, but it should be on my calendar, right? Let me see. I know I seem like I'm getting sidetracked, but I already have my to-do list and everything. Like I already kind of have some things that I know I need to figure out. One of them is to book this panel, like doing an online webinar type lunch and learn thing, and that needs to be the week of the 21st, I think. Okay, yeah, the holiday is going to be on that next Monday, so I just didn't want it to overlap my startup school stuff. But funny thing is, I already put that on my calendar. I forgot. So Monday, I'm probably going to do it on I'm going to propose on Monday. Okay, so there's that. Matter of fact, all right, so that I got that done, so I can close this, right? Because I need to know that I can close a tab. I need to know that I can close a tab. All right, so I don't have to look that up no more because it's on my calendar. And I just picked a date for that event, which is the 20th, so I can mark this off. Say Monday, May. Okay. And okay. I had an idea, so I can approach that. All right, so I have this day. That's the first thing I checked off my list. What the heck? Okay, so this is the kind of stuff I have on my list right now. I know y'all wondering, why do I have the t-shirt thing up? Because we need t-shirts for our conference. I have to order the t-shirts for the conference. I've been trying to transfer files over. Just, I'm just having fun with life. It's just lots of juggling, but it's all good. So I can close this for now because I uploaded like 8 videos yesterday. I have to constantly I have to constantly be removing things from. Oh, I should put this on that list too. Hold on. Playlist, channel research. I'm leaving that open. I'm leaving this open. I'm gonna do this with the backdrop build. I might have to go with an agent. I think I want to build some type of agent. I don't know, some type of agent slash LLM type project. I just don't know where I want to land yet. I have ideas though. Leaving that open. I don't even think this is a real search. Yeah. LinkedIn. I probably got stuff I need to look at on LinkedIn. I don't need 2 tabs though. Alright. What I genuinely, honestly can't believe is that hold on, let me make sure I'm on the right profile. I need to switch. I'm surprised I didn't find the tab I'm looking for, which means it's in another window. And see all these? Yeah. It's my life. So let me see. I'm not trying to put my email on the internet. Okay. I got my other windows over here. This is how I. Oh wait, here it is. This has to be it, right? Okay, I found you. See, because I would have opened a whole nother window. But the sad part is, where's the one I had already? Oh, nope, that's not it. Dang it. Okay, I'm gonna just look through my list again and hopefully I'm gonna find the video. This is a shame. I have too many tabs open. But this is my, no, that's not it. Let's go to my playlist. Jeez Louise. Okay. I did all that for no reason. That window is somewhere on my it's probably minimized, but I got so many windows. I'm not about to go down that rabbit hole. The Founder series, I feel like that was the one. Because I said I wanted to watch something more like the different startup products or companies. I think I watched this one already. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that's the one that I was looking at next. It's supposed to be like, oh, it's 43 minutes. Okay, I will last. This is. Oh yeah. Okay, because the CEO of Anthropic is on here. Okay, so let's do this.
About next, and to the startup forum.
Okay. I'm going to focus on this video today.
Several
in the midst of me getting my stuff done.
Google started our cloud journey,
Cause I need to get, we
We
need to get ready. Like
felt
I need
that
to get dressed and get ready to. I'm going to two events, so yeah, that's gonna be fun. Um, all right, so 45 minutes is safe. Cause absolutely by 1 o'clock I need to start getting ready. It takes a while. I've prepared us, but it takes a while to get out the house.
a big part of the value of cloud
Um,
was making technology accessible to everybody.
okay,
And when we said everybody, including companies that were just being
there
founded
we go.
as a vehicle to help them.
Sorry, I know it's loud. They did not adjust the sound balance of the intro.
Well, welcome to Cloud Next and to the Startup Forum. I'm
Okay.
Thomas Kurian. I run Google's cloud organization. Several, several years ago, when Google started our cloud journey, we felt that a big part of the value of cloud was making technology accessible to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And when we said everybody, including companies that were just being founded as a vehicle to help them have the same technology that powers Google to run their own businesses. Something that most people don't realize is when Google started as a company and Larry and Sergey wrote the search engine, it took them a certain amount of time to write the search engine, and it took them a lot longer time to actually build the infrastructure to scale it, because in those days there was no cloud. And so as a way to help the next Larry or Sergey who is trying to create a company, we wanted to take all the infrastructure that powers Google and our services, the same infrastructure that powers search and ads and all of these things, to bring it to people who are founding companies. Along with that, we also felt that AI was now the new reason why companies were being formed. And there were many companies being formed around new models, new tools to use AI at scale. So we made our technology available to companies to startups who are being founded around AI. And we not only help them build models, but also reach developers through our platform. And when I say reach developers, we
I
put
want to
them
compare
in
something
our
real quick
Vertex platform, which is our platform that
because
enterprises are using to build AI
Y
applications, and made their
Combinator.
models reachable to developers, and understood from the use that developers doing with the
500,000.
models, what new capabilities to add to Vertex to
500,000,
surround
right?
models, make them more
And then
secure, ensure that data is protected, to connect models to existing
I already have
systems, to
it
do things like
open.
RAG, to tune
Google
models, to
for
optimize
startups,
it.
right?
One of the partners that's been with us for a very long time on this journey is Anthropic. Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei worked with us for many years now, and we
Up
worked
to
on three different
350,000 in
dimensions.
credits.
One is we have a shared belief in common things around security of models, helpfulness of models, interpretability of models, making models easier to understand, et cetera. So we have a number of things around policies and how models should work that our organizations share, Google and Anthropic. We also have worked to improve Vertex and make Vertex support Claude, the new set of models from Anthropic, including, as you know, we announced 2 of them available, and the other one is coming in the next couple of weeks. So we're working actively on making all of Anthropic's models available to everybody. 2 of them are now generally available, third coming within the next few weeks. And then third, we've also improved working with Anthropic many things around our inferencing training infrastructure to make the quality of that really work well. One of the things we have been working on is something called multi-host, for example, and it's super important in order to serve the Claude models well. So that's a very deep engineering partnership. Elad Gil needs no introduction. He's a superstar in the investment community and has built and run a number of startups himself. And what we wanted to do was now welcome both Elad and Dario to come and spend some time talking about what they see in the market, how they see their organizations evolving, and to take questions from all of you as well. So I wanted to welcome them both. Elad, Dario, welcome. You guys indeed don't introductions, so rather than
Hey,
me
Preacher. It's going
moderate, we
pretty
thought the
good.
two of you could
It's
have a
busy. It's
conversation
very
and also
busy.
take questions from the audience. So thanks so much for doing this, and enjoy the time.
Oh, thanks so much for including us, and a huge thanks to TK and Google for having us here today. It's been a very exciting event to date. We thought it'd be really fun to talk about some of the things that have been happening in the world of Claude and Anthropic, and then a little bit about AI more generally, both in terms of societal implications, but also some of the very exciting technologies that we see coming. So first off, congratulations on the launch of Claude 3 and the Claude family of models. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you've done recently and some of the implications?
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Elad, and TK. Claude 3, was our latest update to our models that was released about 5 weeks ago. And I wanted to highlight two things about Claude 3. So I think one thing that we worked particularly hard on was the personality of the model. We've had this kind of chat paradigm of models for a while, but I think one thing that hasn't devoted as much attention as the kind of reasoning capabilities of the model, the ability of the models to answer questions, is just how engaging the model is, how much it sounds like a human, how warm and natural it is to talk to. So we had an entire team while we were developing Claude 3 that was devoted to making sure that the model is engaging, and people noticed that as soon as we released it, and that's the case across the Claude 3 family of models. And the second thing is the family of models, where we made 3 different models. Opus is the largest one, Sonnet is the smaller one, but it's faster and cheaper, and Haiku is very fast and very cheap, but very strong in intelligence for how fast and cheap it is. And one of the pieces of feedback that we got from customers is that there are different needs that an enterprise might face, right? Opus is very good at performing very difficult tasks where you have to do exact calculations, and those calculations have to be accurate. So you prize reliability and accuracy above all else, or applications that are not sensitive to latency. Sonnet is sort of a workhorse model. It's a little bit in the middle. For many applications, it's as good as Opus, and competitive with models like GPT-4 Turbo. But it's much cheaper and relatively faster. Haiku, in many ways, I'm very excited about because it outperforms almost all models of its intelligence class, while being very fast and very cheap.
I guess to the fast and cheap point, if you look at the history of the semiconductor industry, Moore's law was coined in the 70s to basically talk about the rate of doubling of transistors, and you could extrapolate that curve and say, okay, how quickly will we see enormous changes in compute and price performance relative to semiconductors? I've heard you say really interesting things that I feel are related about price versus performance for both training and inference. Can you tell people a little bit more about that?
Yes. So I think for both training and inference, we have a few different patterns, right? So one pattern is that the folks training these models, including Anthropic, are typically spending 5x as much per year on the models. But there are 2 other trends that are happening as well. One is that the price performance per flop for training, I think same thing will be true for inference, it's dropping at probably 1.5 to 2x a year. It varies with the estimates. And then algorithmically, we're developing new ways to train the models that are also falling at 1.5x or 2x per year. So I think the cost of training a particular model is going to go down very drastically. But the models are so economically valuable that the amount of money that's spent on training is going to continue going exponentially upward, and will eat up all the efficiency gains, at least at the higher end of models. So the whole just the whole thing has so much momentum behind it that costs can be going down and yet spending is going up.
That's pretty impressive. So that basically means if it's a 1.5 to 2x decrease in cost and you're spending 5x more, then it's effectively 7.5 to 10 times more compute a year is effectively...
Yeah, we within Anthropic, we tend to measure things in units of, we call it actually effective compute. And yeah, I think that is going up by 10x per year. Obviously, an exponential that steep can't last
Effective
forever, and no one knows for sure
sounds
how long
like
it'll last, but
what
that's
they
where we
call
are right
good
now.
put.
Given that each step function and scale seems to have a really big shift in capabilities as well, how do you envision LLMs evolving in the near future, and what do you view as the capability set that's coming in the next year or two?
What is this boy?
Yeah, so a few things. One is, I think, intelligence coming from pure scale. So the models today, even Claude 3 Opus, which on many measures is the strongest model in the world, if you ask it graduate school biochemistry questions or very difficult coding questions, or to make a whole software application, it's not quite at the level where it can do that reliably. It's better than any previously released model, but that's still very challenging. And so I think those very specialized tasks and kind of high reliability will come from further scale, and further scale will come, not just for us, but certainly for us in the next year or two. I think the second thing is multimodality. So with Claude 3, we introduced image inputs, but I think we're also going to see, we're going to see video inputs, we're going to see audio inputs, we're going to see interaction with the physical world, maybe even with robotics. The third thing I would say is work to reduce hallucinations. Even if models are reliable most of the time, hallucinations block a lot of enterprise use cases. And so we're working very hard. We have very substantial teams to try and reduce the amount of hallucination that's present in models. And then the final thing I expect to see in the next year or two is agents, models acting in the world. We've seen lots of instantiations of agents so far, but I don't think we've seen,
Sorry, y'all,
not just for us,
that.
but certainly for us in the next
Near future, and what do you view as the capability set that's coming in the next year or two?
Yeah, so a few things. One is, I think, intelligence coming from pure scale. So the models today, even Claude 3 Opus, which on many measures is the strongest model in the world, if you ask it graduate school biochemistry questions or very difficult coding questions, or to make a whole software application, it's not quite at the level where it can do that reliably. It's better than any previously released model, but that's still very challenging. And so I think those very specialized tasks and kind of high reliability will come from further scale, and further scale will come, not just for us, but certainly for us in the next year or two. I think the second thing is multimodality. So with Claude 3, we introduced image inputs, but I think we're also going to see, we're going to see video inputs, we're going to see audio inputs, we're going to see interaction with the physical world, maybe even with robotics. The third thing I would say is work to reduce hallucinations. Even if models are reliable most of the time, hallucinations block a lot of enterprise use cases. And so we're working very hard. We have very substantial teams to try and reduce the amount of hallucination that's present in models. And then the final thing I expect to see in the next year or two is agents, models acting in the world. We've seen lots of instantiations of agents so far, but I don't think we've seen anything that's really, really strong. And I think getting something that's really, really strong will need additional scale and then techniques on top of that.
I guess with each step up in capabilities, you see new market segments kind of open up. So for example, my sense is something like Harvey, which is a vertical legal AI company, couldn't really exist until this most recent generation of models, just in terms of the capabilities. And it seems with each step function in models, there's new things that open up. What are the enterprise use cases that you're seeing that are becoming increasingly common on Claude 3 and the family of models more generally?
Yeah, so there's a large number, but I'll just list a few of them. So one of them is coding. So as the models get smarter and train for longer, they get much better at coding tasks. So, for example, one of our customers that we're working with on GCP is GitLab. And so I think we'll see increasing amounts of models being able to bite off and do larger amounts of coding tasks over the next year or two. I think another use case has been healthcare and biomedicine. Again, this thing about needing to know the knowledge, needing to get it right. Use cases like financial and legal, again, these often involve reading long documents, which Claude 3 has gotten better at relative to previous models, and making sure that your analysis of them is correct. And then finally, I think in terms of consumer internet and consumer applications, big user has been, for example, Quora and people are doing more and more sophisticated things with these products built upon our APIs.
When I've spoken to large enterprises who are adopting AI, it seems that they're kind of segmenting what they're going to do into 3 buckets. We're going to have a vendor that we're going to use to do something for us. It increases operations efficiency or other things. We're going to build internal tools, and then we're going to do stuff in our product. What proportion of usage do you think roughly falls against each 3 of those in terms of how people are thinking about using Claude?
I think it's actually split pretty evenly. Use cases deploy at different speeds, but I hear people regularly talk about all 3 of them. The idea of making internal tools to make internal employees more productive, the idea of doing something customer-facing, those are both very common. One thing I will say is across those use cases, the type of model that people use is not evenly split. If you're doing something customer-facing, you're more likely to use the smaller models like Sonnet or Haiku. If you're doing something internal, where the point is to get the analysis, and it doesn't matter whether it takes the model 10 seconds or 20 seconds to generate it, you're more likely to use the larger models. And the scale is also smaller, so the cost of the larger models is less of an issue.
I guess if you look at the moment in time of this trend of technology adoption for AI, the starting gun was probably about 18 months ago. There was a series of models that came out. There were chat-based things that came out. How do you think about what's going to either facilitate or some obstacles in terms of enterprise adoption of AI going forward, given how early it is? I guess many enterprises are still just planning what to do, and you're seeing a lot of early adopters. What do you view as the primary obstacles to that and similarly accelerants?
Yeah, I mean, one way I think about it is that we are always still trying to figure out how our own models work. A large language model is this very complicated object. When we deploy it, there's no way for us to figure out everything that it's capable of ahead of time. Some of that just has to be learned from customers. We try to test, and so I think one of the biggest barriers is just our knowledge is imperfect, and transmitting that imperfect knowledge as we learn it to customers. So I would say that one of the most important things we do is just providing good prompt engineering support. It sounds simple, but 30 minutes with a prompt engineer can often make an application work when it wasn't before, or get better at handling errors much better than it was before. And so I think I just think the difference that can make is huge, and different models are prompted in different ways. So the first thing I always recommend to an enterprise customer is just meet with one of our prompt engineers for half an hour. It might transform it might completely transform your use case. I think the other thing is there's a big difference between demos and actual deployment, right? You demo the model, it seems like it does the right thing. You put the model in production, it's like, well, it does the right thing 90% of the time. 10% of the time, it doesn't do the right thing. How do I handle that? Am I misinforming a customer? Am I misinforming an employee? Is it doing something that has to be cleaned up or handled via the infrastructure around it? So helping companies to build the infrastructure around it. And GCP has been very involved in this, and it's an important part of what they're doing with Vertex and Vertex Model Garden. Things like trust and safety support, moderation endpoints, data loss prevention. I think all this infrastructure around is going to be very important. People got very excited about the language models, rightly so. But to actually deploy something in production and scale it and make it work economically, you need the infrastructure to handle all of these things around it.
I guess that really fits well with Anthropic's starting point, because I feel like you have very deep roots in the AI safety and alignment community. And how do you think about what are the ways to optimize for safety and reliability in the context of these models in the enterprise? Are there specific areas you're most focused on tackling? And what are some of the models you've used to approach it so far?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that takes us all the way back to, the very first paper that Anthropic published. And there we kind of laid out a goal for what, a conversational agent or an API, just any kind of agent that you interact with for business use, what properties should it have? And what we hit on was helpful, honest, and harmless. If you think about it, it's kind of what you would want from someone you're working with, right? You want them to help you. You definitely don't want them to lie to you. You want them to be honest. And you want them, not to cause harm. And so we've put a lot of effort into all of that from the beginning. We have a whole team working on reducing model hallucinations. There have been various studies, for example, of folks trying to jailbreak models, right? Trying to get them to go around their guardrails, sometimes to reveal sensitive private information. And in most of those academic studies, Anthropic models are much harder to jailbreak than all the other models in the world. Differences have been things like 30 to 90% for other models, 0 to 6% for Anthropic models.
Do you think those sorts of security style features will be built directly into the models, or do you think there'll be third-party providers or clouds that will provide those sorts of solutions?
Yeah, so I think it's a combination of those things, and that's one of the reasons for our partnership with GCP, right? It's just like whenever you have a security problem, you can be attacked at different levels, and if you want to provide a secure solution, you have to account for all those levels. And so at the model level, things like jailbreaking, things like helpful, honest, harmless, of course, are very important enterprise use cases. We want the models to be predictable, and we believe we can provide that very well. But all of that isn't of any use if the model gets stolen out from under you, right? The model itself gets stolen out from under you. And so security on the cloud is very important. Privacy on the cloud is very important. And TK could speak to that much more extensively and eloquently than I could, but this is a priority for GCP. So I think of our partnership as a way to provide these features, these different levels of features for enterprises and cover all of the bases.
Given how much you've thought about safety, what do you view as the biggest risks that keep you awake at night regarding AI safety or AI models or systems?
Yeah, so I think I'd separate that out into kind of short term and longer term. So short term, I think a lot of the things are the very practical things that we've already been talking about today. So that includes things like models that are misleading, models that might be biased if they start to make important decisions related to credit or financial decisions, legal analysis, insurance. These are not areas where it's good to make a mistake or to be biased. And so we work very hard. We've put out blog posts in this area, and each generation of our models has been better at this task than previous ones. We've gotten better at analyzing financial documents, making sure that the analysis is accurate. And we've put, independent folks have put out studies, and we do very well, often the best model in the world on those studies. So that's what I worry about in the short run, and is of concern to enterprises every day. Customers ask about this question, right? It doesn't have to come from us. I think in the long run, I worry about bigger stuff as we go on this exponential of models. They're going to become increasingly powerful and increasingly autonomous. And I think it's going to be possible for folks to misuse models and use those models to reconnoiter abilities that they would not have been able to have otherwise. I worry about misuse of biology. I worry about cyber attacks. And we have something called a responsible scaling plan that's designed to detect those threats, which honestly are not really very present today. We're only starting to see the beginning of them. So every time we release a new model, we run them through this set of evaluations, this set of tests to see, hey, are we getting any closer to the world where we would be worried about these risks being present in models? And so far, the answer has always been no, but they're a little bit better at these tasks than they were before. And someday the answer will be yes, and then we have a prescribed set of safety procedures that we'll take on the model when that is the case. The other side of the risks is, as models become more autonomous, we worry about what they do that might not be in line with what we want them to do, right? a chatbot or even most of the enterprise applications, they can do unpredictable things, but at the end of the day, it's just words, or it's mostly just words. As models start to become agents, as they go out in the physical world, as they take actions on computers and phones and interfaces autonomously and without humans overseeing them, I think there will be very substantial risks in this area, and we'll have to have policies. We'll have to mitigate them. I think 2 or 3 years from now, enterprises will be asking me and other model developers that question, just like they're asking us about data privacy and data security and hallucinations today.
Yeah, it feels almost like a natural evolution of different security-related issues. And if you look at what humans do and how they act nefariously, we already have a lot of examples of where people don't act well, and so we could just extrapolate some of that behavior. What are you excited about from the perspective of AI? It definitely feels like, at a minimum, it's one of the biggest potential changes for global health, global education equity. What are areas that excite you in terms of our future?
Yeah. So a few things on this. One, I used to be a biologist. I did my PhD in computational neuroscience, and I worked in computational proteomics at Stanford Medical School. And one of the actual reasons that I left that field to go into AI is I felt that the complexity of what we needed to handle was really ballooning. If you think about the history of biology and medicine over the last 100 years, the diseases that we've been able to cure or at least address are relatively simple, right? If you think about viral diseases, it means there's an invader in your body, and you need to find a way to repel that invader without harming the human itself. If we look at cancer or Alzheimer's or the aging process itself, those are fundamentally more complex problems, and humans are limited in the ability to keep detail about them in our head, right? There are whole departments where, if you think about like immunology, right? The immune system is incredibly complicated. And one hope I have is that, look, humans have some strengths and they have some weaknesses. And biology is starting to get to the point where making progress on it is difficult because of some weaknesses of humans. AI systems have some strengths and some weaknesses. As they scale, those strengths increase. Some of those weaknesses will be addressed. Some will remain. And I'm hoping that by working together, we can accelerate progress in these areas. If we look at cancer now, right? It's kind of considered a miracle. If we take one really narrow subtype of one type of cancer, miracle drugs are considered drugs that that will cure half or 2/3 of the people in that very narrow subtype. It would be great if, in the next 10 years, with the help of AI, we could take these giant swaths of diseases and say, you know what, prognosis for this is no longer you're very likely to die. It's we cure 90% of the people of this entire type.
What role does Anthropic hope to play in this future? Because it seems like there's a few different approaches. There's the core LLMs that you've built. There's things that can be post-trained or fine-tuned relative to those core LLMs into different verticals and vertical applications, finance and legal and things like that. There's potentially different model architectures for biology, physics, chemistry, et cetera, things like robotics. I'm just sort of curious, like, where in that spectrum you hope to play a role.
Yeah, so I think we actually plan to be in most of the positions in that spectrum. One thing, you never know anything for sure, right? Companies are unpredictable, but it's our current hypothesis that we intend to be more enterprise-focused than consumer-focused, and that's the reason for our partnership with GCP. But within that, there's a huge amount of different areas you can work in. So my view is, look, I think there's a little bit of a false dichotomy between large models that are general purpose and small models that are trained in some particular area, like biology or finance or coding. I think we see a little bit of that divergence today because we Anthropic spend all our time training the general models, and then folks can take small models and specialize them. But that's already changing. That's already starting to go away, right? We're already working on, how can we modify, how can we make custom models? Anthropic has already made custom models. I think the thing that will ultimately win in a given domain, it isn't the small custom model or the large general model, it's a large customized model. I think of customization as providing a general uplift, but not changing the basic scaling trend of models. And so, I totally believe that, like, models that are, models that are customized for biology will be very important in solving that. Models that are customized for finance will be very important for solving that. It's just that the customization will have to keep up with the model scaling. And Anthropic is very excited to work with customers to provide such models.
So do you think, for example, if you look at something like protein folding where you're well versed, is that just something going to be based on a transformer model that's like a LLM, and then you just add some biology-related information, or you just train a large-scale model specifically with sort of molecular information associated?
Yeah, so that's an interesting one, right? Because the state of the art there is AlphaFold, and I think AlphaFold actually had a big impression on me. I think Google DeepMind's work there has been very inspiring. But we need 100 things like that. And I think we're both going to continue to have, when we think of small specialized systems, less small language models, but like systems that are very targeted at solving a particular computational problem. That will continue to happen. That will coexist with large models that are both general and customized. I do hope, though, we'll get to this holy grail where the large language models can act as co-workers to help us design the next AlphaFold and the next 100 AlphaFolds. I think that's the ultimate holy grail.
That's really cool. I guess related to that, there's a lot that you mentioned in terms of agents and systems that will go and do actions on behalf of the user. What do you think is needed besides the core LLM in order to achieve performant agents?
Yeah. First, I would say no one really knows the answer to that question, right? It's kind of an unexplored frontier, but we can make some guesses. One of my guesses is that if you want an agent to act in the world, usually that acting requires you to engage in a series of actions, right? You talk to a chatbot, it only answers, and maybe there's a little follow-up. But with agents, you might need to take a bunch of actions, see what happens in the world or with a human, and then take more actions. And so you need to do a long sequence of things. And for that long sequence of things to actually work, the error rate on each of the individual things has to be pretty low, right? If I'm a robot and I'm like, okay, I'm going to pick up this thing and walk over there, and then I'm going to pick up that, I'm building a house or something, there's probably thousands of actions that go into that. And so all of this is to say the models need to get more reliable because the individual steps need to have very low error rates. And I think part of that will come from scale. Like we need another generation or two of scale before the agents will really work. I think another part of that will come from
very focused on
these reliability
just
techniques that Anthropic has specialized in, right? We think of them as safety or reliability techniques, but I think they're actually enablers to enable these longer horizon tasks. So those are a couple of things I would point to.
When I look at agents that I think are doing interesting things today, Cognition may be example, Magic, there's a few in the coding space. A lot of them are basically using human in the loop to help steer something. So an agent is almost like a junior employee or intern who's coming back and asking you for help. How important do you think human in the loop will be for some of these more advanced systems versus it's just all going to be automated?
Yeah, I think that's an unanswered question. It's one of these things, I kind of divide questions into pure technical and questions that involve interaction with humans either at the user experience level or at the societal level. Those second types of questions are like really hard to predict. They're really empirical. You just have to kind of try it and figure it out. And so I think this is a big unanswered question with agents, right? I have this agent that in theory could do a bunch of stuff for me or for my business. Do I want to just let it do those things or do I want to intervene? At what points do I intervene? Obviously, pure automation is appealing from a bunch of perspectives because I can just assign an agent to do something. But if I think about, for example, agents controlling computers, do I really want an agent rifling around on my machine, my operating system for an hour, and I have no idea what it did, and it's like, okay, done with the task. And I'm like, well, what else did you do? I have no way of knowing. So again, I think there's kind of like a human or UX problem there, which is what can you trust the agent to do? There's also a safety problem, like what guardrails? How do I know this thing didn't introduce a security vulnerability intentionally or by accident? And so these are all unanswered questions. Again, some of them are going to be about the infrastructure around the system, right? The agent operates within a cloud, and so its abilities are going to be limited within a cloud. And so I think that takes us back to like why Anthropic has cloud partners, and the idea that there's a model layer and that there's there's an infrastructure layer, and we're excited to work with GCP on the infrastructure layer.
I guess related to that, as you mentioned, you've done a lot of work with Claude 3 on the reinforcement learning side, and really making sure that some of the models interact in a really rich and human way. Can you tell us a little bit more about your thoughts on reinforcement learning more generally and how it applies to different enterprise use cases?
Yeah. So, a little bit about, kind of engineering of Claude 3. I mean, about a year and a half ago, Anthropic developed this method called constitutional AI, which is the idea that you can give the AI a set of principles and then kind of train it to evaluate itself on how well it's following that set of principles. The language model can read text, so it can read a constitution or a set of principles and use that as a North Star to loop in its own training. So we use that as well as RL from human feedback, as well as RL from things like executing code. And we find that you kind of get the best results when you throw all these things together, right? I think this is a recurring observation in the AI and LLM space, which is that you might think you have some complicated way of combining things, but actually you just throw a bunch of stuff together, and if you throw enough stuff together with enough diversity, the model starts to catch on to the pattern. So I think the future, while it'll be incredibly difficult to find all these sources of training, I don't expect it to be fundamentally different. I just expect it to have a different scale, new tasks to do, maybe some algorithmic innovation here and there.
One customer story that you told me about before that I thought was really interesting and has a lot of implications in terms of how we think about future access to information was Liquid Tech. Could you talk a little bit more about that partnership and what you're doing?
Yes. So Liquid Tech is a mobile network provider to a lot of Africa and the Middle East. So we're working with them and potentially with GCP to start to provide Claude in these areas. And we have some. We're also looking into additional partnerships to help with ministries of education. So I think one thing that's really important is providing this technology to all of the world, right? Something that tends to happen by default. I'm not really blaming anyone for it, but it's just kind of the natural thing that tends to happen is that when you make a new technology, it's always distributed first to those who are already most familiar with that technology and prior technologies, right? When we do go to market, the first people usually who deploy our models are startups. Then it's larger companies who are digital natives. Then it's folks who are in other industries who are a little further from it. And then outside all of those circles is sometimes other parts of the world that aren't as immediately exposed to these technologies. And I think it's important from a humanitarian perspective that we develop these technologies here and kind of distribute them everywhere. And I think it's good from a business perspective too.
What you mentioned in terms of education access really resonates. I think a lot of us in what I'd call like the nerd community have at one point or another read The Diamond Age, which is a book about adoption of AI for educational purposes and things like that. Do you think we're going to see a leapfrogging of AI agents or AI tutors into regions outside of the Western world relative to what's happened today?
Yeah, I mean, I often cite that book. In it, the conceit is you can build all kinds of things with nanotechnology, and so this engineer makes something called the Young Ladies Illustrated Primer, which is basically today we would call it like an AI system that interacts with you and is able to give you a complete automated education. So I don't know. I think there's lots of potential for that, both in the developed world and in the developing world. I think that's a very promising area. We often struggle to provide education to all of those who need it. As with all things, we don't know what will work and what won't work ahead of time. So I think there will need to be a lot of experiments in those areas, and we're excited to conduct those experiments.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of papers from the 80s that basically show that if you have really good one-on-one tutoring, you end up in some cases performing a standard deviation better on whatever that thing is that you're being tutored on. And so it seems like there's enormous promise there. Are there other things that Anthropic is doing in the education vertical today?
I think, that's the main one we're thinking about. I think, but I think general use of these models, both from a consumer perspective and from an enterprise perspective, I think the models can be used to help. I mean, obviously they can be misused, right? People can use them to cheat on homework or whatever. But I think if used responsibly, they can help provide information. They can help be an aid. And I totally agree with your point. And it's intuitive, right? It's much more difficult to engage with a teacher in a classroom of some number of dozens than it is to directly talk to someone who's instructing you. It just makes sense that humans connect one-on-one.
A lot of Anthropic's focus has been on enterprise and enterprise partnerships, but you've mentioned consumer a few times. Can you talk about how you engage with different consumer partners?
Yes, I mean, one of our theses is that models are general, right? So if a model is good for enterprise, then generally, consumers should be able to use it as well, particularly consumers that, want to use it to be productive, to read documents, to perform coding, to do other things like this. And so, we find that whenever we produce a strong model, that it has both enterprise use cases and consumer use cases. Now, in terms of our effort and our thinking about how we build the company, we're more focused on the enterprise side. But again, having built a strong model, it's kind of you almost feel like the model is bursting at the seams to get out to every possible surface you could deploy it to.
Some of the areas from a model development company perspective that seem to come up a few times in terms of creating new capabilities is one, reasoning, which you mentioned is in part due to scale and training of models, but in part, I know some people are starting to work on standalone reasoning modules, and then second is memory. How do you think about those areas and their applications going forward, and how much time are you spending thinking about those things?
Sorry, the question is reasoning modules and memory?
Correct.
So I think memory. I mean, memory can come from a bunch of different places. So, Anthropic has been a pioneer in extending the context window. We were the first one to provide a context window of 100,000 tokens back when, no other model had a context above 8,000 tokens. Now we're up to 2,000 tokens. We're looking at a million. Other model providers are doing the same. So that's one source of memory. Another source of memory is RAG, retrieval augmented generation, where you can take some large database that might have 1 million documents in it and use a small model to pick out from that database the things that are most relevant and then stuff them into the model's context window. So I think those are two areas around memory where we're making a lot of progress. Reasoning, I've kind of observed this general phenomenon in AI systems where there are words like reasoning where ahead of time everyone thinks they know what they mean, right? It's like, oh yeah, this is reasoning and that's rote memorization. But one thing I think that AI continually teaches us and is continuing to teach us is that a lot of time concepts that we think are binary and crisp are actually continuous and diffuse. And so my view is as we scale these models, they get better and better at reasoning. They're still not all that good at reasoning. I think, it would be the intellectually honest statement. But every time we scale a model, they get a little better at it. They get better at coding. They get better at doing math. I don't think reasoning is some binary thing that is absent from our models and needs some genius innovation in order to be present. I think it's something that, improves with the exponential and happens to turn on relatively later in the exponential because it's hard.
What is your long-term vision for where Anthropic is heading, both as a company but also in terms of its impact to the world?
Yeah, in terms of as a company on the commercial side, I think in terms of knowledge work and the knowledge economy. When I think about all the enterprise customers in the world, on the, there's both the internal side and there's the external side. On the internal side, I think about what I think people might really want from these models is for them to act as coworkers, someone I can work with and who knows a lot about the particular company and is able to take actions within the company using all of its systems. So today's models are if not deployed carefully, a bit like saying, I'll take some random smart person from off the street who doesn't know anything about my company and I'll ask it questions and it can answer them. I would really love for us to go to the world where we can connect to databases, we can connect to data that's stored. And again, some of this connects to cloud where it's like, okay, you're running the model on say GCP, All the data may also be on GCP. So can we put this in kind of a single security boundary and make it a single integrated system? But I think the broader vision is, how can we turn these LLMs into something that looks more like coworkers and has context, and the context doesn't need to be added in these relatively janky ways. In terms of impact on the world, what I think about is, theme that's come up over and over again here and comes up in the field general is just progress is really fast, right? This fast exponential, I think that is the most salient fact about the field overall. And with this fast exponential comes many benefits, also comes risks. We've dealt with many risks before as a society. I think the only thing that's really different here is how fast they're coming at us, and therefore how many of them there are. Things that would be drawn out over a century are happening in 5 or 10 years. And so, I would love for Anthropic to set examples here. We've set an example with our responsible scaling plan with, saying we're going to measure for these risks at every new generation of models. And after we've released this, the other major companies, close to all of them now, I think, have followed suit with similar frameworks. And so trying to help think about how we can set an example and how everyone in the industry can work together. Forget about this company winning or that company winning. Can we all work together to address these problems and mitigate the risks of the technology so that we can all share in the benefits?
That's fantastic. I think that's a great place to stop. So thank you so much for the conversation today.
Thank you for having me.
I don't know. I mean, I thought that was a helpful conversation, but realistically, I kept thinking about, I don't know, some of the stuff he was saying, I'm like, how do I say this? It kind of was giving like, here's how to do what we already know how to do almost, and like just keep doing that to make progress. Which I think is definitely like, that's fair. I think it's obvious, and to me, and that's maybe to me because I spend a lot of time like, paying attention to and learning about this field, or this technology. I think it's very limiting to say, hey, what's the opportunity in it right now? And it's just like, just throwing more scale at it. And it's like, that's, yes, but that is actually not, I think that's a more obvious way to answer that question. I think a less obvious way to answer that question is like, I think I was talking about this before where I was like, there's also the shift of, right now a lot of the language models are they only work because they have 1 billion parameters. Like, yeah, of course it can predict most things reasonably, but optimizing model training and starting to have more specialized approaches, I think that's going to be like, to me, because I'm very, I'm more interested in research, so I'm thinking about like, okay, we already know how to do that thing, and yes, hypothetically we just throw more compute power at it, but that's not the end all be all. This is really just scratching the surface. So yeah, my working session is going pretty well, although it's coming to an end I was thinking about like 30 more minutes. I'm trying to, it's going well, but I definitely have to start getting dressed at 1:00. It's 12:30 right now. I'm kind of in the middle of, where's the tab I was in? I was in the middle of putting out a program email so that we can promote the next MVP developer training. I was just picking dates and stuff, and then kind of sending out an email to the people that are already signed up. All right, so I do need to finish this. And then I need to go check on Justice. 'Cause I do not want him randomly taking a nap on the floor, which he does from time to time. So yeah. Today, I feel like I'm getting stuff done. I'm definitely getting stuff done, which is good, and I'm getting some momentum in the direction of some of the items that have lingered on my to-do list from last week. Doo, doo, doo. Okay. So another thing I'm gonna do is, because I have 2 of those calendars. When does this one start? This one also starts in 2024, but that one starts in July. Okay. This one is going to be my program calendar, I guess. And the other one. Where is it? This one. I don't know. There we go. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up for the day because all the things, but I'll definitely be on stream tomorrow, of course, always at this point. And I hope y'all have a good day as well. I'll be in Discord and stuff. I'll probably be on Instagram because sometimes that's what I start getting into. I'll be liking stories and stuff like that. So yeah, I'll see y'all tomorrow. And in the meantime, have a good afternoon. Not this bot acting like that. Why is this bot acting like that? What happened? That's crazy. Here, I'll put a link. That's the first time that's ever happened. That's so funny. Oh, it's not funny though. Invite. Copy. Here's a link, y'all. Have a good day, Miss Signer. Literally, neither one of my bots wanted to respond. That's crazy. Stream elements. All right.